All right, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Today is Thursday, October 12th, and this is a special meeting of the Cranston City Council. At this time, I ask for the clerk to please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. Before we begin, I would like to take just a few moments of silence for thoughts and prayers with those who are unnecessarily suffering in Israel right now. Right. Thank you. This evening, we will have the privilege of swearing in our newest council member due to the special election. That would be Dan Wall. And before we do the oath of office, I will ask for the formality of Madam Clerk, if you could please read the election results into the record.
The election certificate is addressed to City Clerk Nelson. We hereby certify and declare the following person was elected at the special election on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023 in the city of Cranston to the office as set forth preceding his name and for the unexpired term of office hereinafter stated. Council Ward 6, Daniel R. Wall, 27 Sagamore Road. Vote totals from the October 3rd, 2023 special election were provided by the Rhode Island Board of Elections on October 6th, 2023, and are hereby certified by the Cranston Board of Canvassers as follows. Council Ward 6, Daniel Wall, Democrat, 844. Anthony Melillo, Republican, 628. Robert B. Lancia, Independent, 97. Mark Bachner, Independent, 93. The Rhode Island Secretary of State is hereby copied on this local certification in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 17-22-5.2. The term of office for all council members is 2 years or until their successor is duly elected and qualified. Signed by Nicholas J. Lima, Registrar, Director of Elections.
Thank you. Also this evening, I would like to mention that the Honorable Mayor is here with us this evening. Welcome, Mayor Hopkins. And I know there are numerous distinguished guests this evening. Thank you for joining us here in person and for those on Zoom. And at this time, Madam Clerk, if you could administer the oath. Dan, you can step up at this time. Thanks.
So just raise your raised hand. I'll do all the talking and then you can say I do.
I don't get to talk at all.
You'll have plenty of opportunities later. You do solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful unto and support the Constitution of the United States, this state, and support the laws and Constitution thereof, and the Home Rule Charter and ordinances of the city of Cranston, and that you will well and truly execute the office of which you have been elected, or until another be engaged in your place, or until you be legally discharged therefrom, so help you God.
I do.
All right,
Thank you
congratulations.
very much.
Welcome, Dan. And at this time, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, meeting adjourned.
Good evening. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting. It is Thursday, October 12th. To the clerk, can you please take a roll call?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Present.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Council President Reno.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
Next item on the business is approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes of the September 14th, 2023 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. The clerk, can you please take the roll?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item of business is committee business matters carried over. We have 8-23-01, ordinance amendment of Title 10, Chapter 12 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005 entitled Vehicle and Traffic, Dyer Avenue Pedestrian Activated Signal, sponsored by Councilman Donegan. This was continued from the September 14th meeting. Councilman Donegan, would you like, is there a motion to approve or would you, yeah, okay. Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Councilmember Donegan?
Thank you, Council Vice President. So what this ordinance that was continued from last month is it would create a pedestrian activated crosswalk at, on Dyer Avenue. There is a good stretch of road there from, beyond the Cranston line, I think Pecasset Avenue, all the way down to Cranston Street, where there is no stop. There is no stop sign, there is no stoplight, and there's no protected place for pedestrians to cross the street. And where this proposal would be is there's an existing crosswalk. It's where the school, the school crossing guard has students and young people cross the street. It's also right at a very large housing complex with a lot of both young and elderly residents. And what this would do is it would create a protected place for people on Dyer Avenue to cross from one side of the street to the other to access their homes or their school or any of the shops or businesses that are on both sides of Dyer Avenue. So this would make crossing Dyer Avenue safer for those that need to do it. And, you know, I know we've had residents here talk about it. One who was unfortunately hit themselves. Would this solve every issue? Of course not. And I don't think any of us think that. But this unquestionably would make it safer for people to cross the street. And I think that's something that we should do. So I would urge passage.
Thank you, Councilman Donegan. Is there any other further discussion or questions to the sponsor of this ordinance? We have someone from the administration here. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, in the traffic engineer's report, we recommended using a different traffic calming technique in this area. I don't know if anyone's read it. It's a rectangular rapid flash beacon. It's a little bit different than the signal. It's the same thing. It's pedestrian activated flashing lights that will warn upcoming vehicles. The only difference is there is no arm that hangs over the road with the light. Typically, you'll see those like in front of a fire station. They'll activate when the fire truck comes out. The reason we're recommending the other option is just because it's just as effective and substantially cheaper. So.
Based on the report, Director, through the chair, based on the report, it's like a $60,000 difference. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
And it's just a one-time expense, that difference?
Correct.
So, I mean, I think either option is better than nothing. I just feel that the way we are all trained as motorists, that the stoplight would be a better option. That's just how I feel. I think we're all trained. We see a red light, we stop. If we see a flashing, it's like a flashing blue light on the side of the road, right?
I believe they're yellow, but yeah, same thing.
I would prefer to move forward with the stoplight. That's just my own personal feeling.
Councilman, do you mean like an actual traffic light or just the actual intersection light?
So a pedestrian could activate the crosswalk signal, which would create a red light, similar to what is outside Devon Manor on Cranston Street. Residents can go out. There's no red light that is there unless a pedestrian presses the button. The light activates, traffic has to stop. Someone has a protected, 21 seconds to cross the street.
Okay, Councilor Wall, go right ahead.
All right, let me hold this down. And maybe it was said already. So when the pedestrian presses the button, there's no way to make it a red light that comes through that. It has to be a yellow flashing light. Is that the way I understand it? I'm sorry, I didn't have.
That's typically how the infrastructure is set up, yes.
Okay.
There's one of those right down Park Ave at the intersection of Garden Street. It would be a good example of that.
Director, what's the data that we have in terms of the number of traffic that we have there? And has there been any accidents there too? I'm not sure that we're.
Recently, 2-3 months ago, the police did a traffic study. It didn't note any unusual speeding. I think it was nominal average speeds, but no different than most any road in the city of a similar traffic volume of traffic. So it's very consistent. Something to note that in the neighborhood bond fund where these funds would be taken is $87,000 remaining for the various traffic safety considerations. So if you did this, it would probably exhaust that fund until next time we bond.
Just so I can hear you correctly, what is the remaining balance on there?
Approximately $87,000.
And the cost for the intersection?
Approximately 87,000, 80 to 100.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the intersection as well. On my Google phone, there's currently a stop sign there, right? There isn't?
No.
Right now, there's just a crosswalk with a wheelchair ramp on one side and a crossing guard during school hours.
Okay. Are we able to also paint that cross guard? I see that it's currently painted in. Director, are those lines painted as they are right now, like the crossing walk lines?
No, that's drawn in as part of this picture. They are not that clear right now. The repainting of the crosswalk would be a part of this project.
Okay, good. Okay, that's what I was getting at. I just want to know if we can actually paint that as well. Okay. Any other discussion on this item?
If-
Councilmember
okay.
Paplaskas.
Thank you, Councilwoman Chair. Through the chair to Director, what was the cost for the other set of flashing lights?
About $25,000.
And that's the diamond shaped warning sign with the two lights on each side that flash, correct? Yeah, personally, and I kind of disagree with Councilmember Donegan. I know that you want to do the light like at Devon Manor, and I've certainly stopped at that many times. But I think the less expensive option that the administration is proposing is newer technology. And I see it a lot in the Cape when I have to go out and do jobs, especially around bike paths and other high residential crossings. I kind of feel like that. I notice that more because it's kind of eye level with you when you're driving. And those strobes are really bright when somebody presses the button and they say, oh, there's someone that wants to cross, and you stop and you go. So me personally, I like the other option, the less expensive one more. Certainly I don't have a vote on this committee but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
The other question that I have on here, I'm sorry, does any other members have any questions? Okay, I have a question. Oh, Councilmember Ferry.
Through the chair, Councilman Donegan, you very strongly feel that the red light is needed.
I think that something has to be there that gives added protection to make it safer for people to cross the street there. I am. And honestly, the unfamiliarity with the other option certainly, makes it less appealing. And that's honestly just because I'm less familiar with it. If it comes down to cost, and we were to go with the other option, could we have signage before that crosswalk that, said slow for pedestrian, slow pedestrian crossing?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Then let's do that. I think that would satisfy the concern. Obviously, in addition to those flashing strobe lights.
I want to see something happen there. That's why I'm thinking that the best chance is to maybe do the less expensive version, put the extra signs in, and, see if the technology is supposed to be more effective, and then all good.
Okay.
If I may just add one more thing, the signal as proposed would require a warrant analysis. The rapid reflecting beacons do not. I have not done the analysis, but my engineering judgment is that this is not going to pass that warrant analysis. So I think that's why another reason I would choose the rapid reflecting beacons. Thank you.
Then let's do that.
So Councilman Donegan, just so that I understand you correctly, the picture, for example, on page, well, there's no page number, but right on, is this what you want or you don't want?
No, I think that is a fair compromise made by the administration to move forward to get this done. And
The one showed on the picture?
yes.
Okay, great, which is solar operated as well, correct?
Pedestrian activated, correct? Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Some of the, look, I'm just gonna finish my thought real quickly, Councilwoman Jermaine. If this is the signage that we're showing that you're proposing, the ones right here, Justin, Director, there's some of these intersections, if this is mainly focused for the daytime, that's great. I don't know how much foot traffic there is in the evening, but they have some of these that right around the actual diagram of the little picture that we have, there's like the little lights that go around them, so that way folks can also see them. Is that the same cost or is that an added cost to this? I know there's a lot of different municipalities that have like mobility departments, and accessibility, and so they've been looking a lot into that. And I didn't know if Cranston, this was one of them.
That would be an additional expense for that product. However, I will say the signs do have high retroreflectivity, especially when they're new, and the flashlights do reflect off them pretty well. But yes, the proposed change does not include those lights around the rectangle, the diamond.
All right, thank you. This is Councilmember Donegan's word, so I'm gonna just defer to him. So Councilmember, if you're adding any signage as well, does that have to be reflected on the ordinance that you've submitted as on here?
I don't believe so, that the additional slow pedestrian signs is required by ordinance.
I'm sorry, Councilman, can you repeat that?
So earlier when I had asked, if we're going to go with the rapid beacons, flashing beacons, if we could have additional signage, X amount of feet before the intersection, just
Yeah.
warning,
If
would
we-
those additional signs be required by ordinance, or is that? No, okay.
No, not for signage like that, because you're not controlling traffic with it. It's a warning. I do have a question though. Are we we're not amending this section of the Code of Ordinances anymore, Mr. Councilman. We're doing something different.
Well, it would still technically be a pedestrian activated crosswalk. I don't know if this system has to be entered into the code.
I don't know how the engineer would characterize it, if it's a warning or if it's a control device. A traffic control device needs to be addressed in the Code of Ordinances. I don't know how. Traffic.
The ordinance that has been drafted is under a section of the traffic signals, not the rapid reflecting beacons. Again, I'm just the engineer, but I believe there is a separate ordinance where the rapid reflecting beacons are specifically called out.
So my recommendation would be, you can't amend this because we're not amending this section. My recommendation would be to withdraw it and resubmit under the appropriate code section. That's why I was trying to get a sense of how, according to traffic safety code, the device is characterized. In trying to think about how we might amend this, but we can't.
Councilman Donegan, I know. Is that a?
I'll withdraw.
You're gonna withdraw it? Okay. So you're withdrawing it, but Councilwoman Anise Jermaine had a question. Did you
I think my
that all
question
said
has been answered, yeah.
about that? Thank you. Okay. So you're withdrawing this ordinance this evening, okay? Just double checking, withdrawal an ordinance, does that require a full vote? No, or no? Through a council? Okay, perfect. All right, great, thank you. All right. We're moving on to this item on tonight's agenda. It's under Councilwoman Jermaine. She has 2 items on here, continue from September 14th. First one's discussion on the sewer infrastructure bond. What is the amount available? Councilwoman Jermaine, you have the gavel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This issue came up since 2020, my first couple of months in the council, where I have received many complaints from residents, mostly in the area of Wall Square, Richard Street, Karen Street, where we have a lot of issue with when it's rain. And I have been told there were a problem with sewer in this area. So, and I remember that I asked the question about infrastructure. What if we have money to address those issues? And I was told again, there were a bond that passed a few years or decades ago that could be served to address the sewer problem. And that's why I would like to ask today, if I was wrong, or if there is information about the sewer infrastructure bond, and what is the amount, and if there is a way we can address this issue with that money.
Yeah, so I'll answer your questions and then maybe we'll have a conversation. Sewer infrastructure bond has $0 in it. The last bond that was taken out was in 2014, and that was for upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. All that money has been expended. So there's no money in the sewer infrastructure bond. You mentioned this is related to raining. The city of Cranston has a separate system for sewer and stormwater. So the sewer would have no impact on rain.
So as I mentioned, I'm not an expert. I was told by the resident, so there is like on Richard Street and Clarence Street, they told me there is a problem with the sewer line. And that's why a lot of time we have problem in that area. So I am not an expert. I don't know, you maybe know exactly what's going on in that area.
Yeah, that's a very common mistake. They are separate. Sewer and stormwater have separate pipes under the ground. We do not have any combined systems in the city, so that there's no impact on the sewer infrastructure when it rains.
Thank you for clarification on this matter. The next issue we have, maybe that's also you can talk about it, is the flooding issue we have in the same area. So we had Wishart Street, Current Street, Arthur Street, Greenwood, Garden Street, Magnolia, Budlong Manor areas. That all of those streets, whenever it's rain, whenever there is a big snow, it's flooded. So my question is, what can we do? So it's been decades, they told me. And since the resident in that area are experiencing this issue, I think we have to do something. What can we do?
So all those locations that you mentioned, the one thing in common, they're all part of the same watershed. What that means is they all discharge to the same point, that's Fenner Pond. The answer to I think you're asking particularly about the rain events that have happened this year. We've had very severe rain events. The fixes we are, as engineers, looking at fixing are 2-year storms. That is an inch over several hours. This year, we have gotten 70-year storms, 50-year storms, 30-year storms. The design to fix something like that is extremely expensive, tens of millions of dollars. The expense to fix a 2-year storm is still millions of dollars. So ultimately, this would have to be vetted in the capital improvement plan.
Do you know how long the resident in that area have been experiences the issue?
I do not know.
Is there anyone in the administration who know?
The question is, how long has the residents had this issue?
Yes.
I do not have the answer. I would be surprised if anyone did.
So I learned about it since 2020. And residents have been told it's been there for decades. So I just want to know, anytime it's expensive, is it when someone spend money, do the basement, so every single rain in the basement flooded? And that's expensive for them too. When you have to, to redo everything, your insurance got expensive too. And sometimes if you make a claim, your insurance gonna kick you out. So what do we think about all of those people that have been experiencing this issue where their basement been flooded all the time? I understand it's expensive, but because it's expensive for us, so we cannot do something for these people?
As an engineer, I would love to run that project. I do not decide where the money goes, however, so it needs to be allocated.
So that means you need direction to know what to do in this situation.
Well, yes, you'd have to hire an engineering firm to evaluate and design a solution, yes.
So I think the administration take notes, because as I am representing this part of the city, and I think everyone in this chamber, the administration, they also care about those people who anytime there is a rain, it's a headache for them. So if we need the money, we need to start planning where the money going to come from, how we're going to plan to start this project, because cannot continue. So I understand you are the engineering, so if you can propose something to the administration and administration can work with the council, what we need to do, this cannot continue. Do you want to have the higher up administration to tell you, or you can propose something?
I can propose something in next year's capital budget, but as you know, ultimately that comes to the city council for approval.
Well, that's meaning we have to wait for the next budget to propose something for that.
This is a capital expense, so yes.
All right, so you can assure us at the next budget, there's gonna be a proposal for this issue.
We can, it's a little bit more complicated because we need to have a design to have a price to give you. And we can't pay for that design under capital money unless we actually do the project. So it's a little bit more complicated than a yes or no answer right now.
Do you think we can apply for grant for such program?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Do you think we can apply for grant?
There,
Is there?
I'm
grant
sure there
available?
are stormwater grants out there that can be used for this, yes.
Stormwater, okay. So we have a grant writer, we can ask our grant writer to look for money for this program. That's something can be done.
Yes, particularly if we can get a grant for an engineering study, that would be the first step.
Okay. Would it be possible we can work together on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Any other questions, Councilwoman?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. To the clerk, if you can please note that Councilwoman Renzulli is here for the record. Councilwoman Renzulli, do you have a question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairwoman. Just on the same topic as Councilwoman Jermaine, would it be possible to look into what the state perhaps has to offer through infrastructure money that they have right now as well?
What infrastructure money are we talking about?
Well,
Just various grants that they have available?
yes.
Yeah,
through-
absolutely,
Through
yeah.
the state of Rhode Island. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the director or on this topic before we move forward? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Lane delineator on Narragansett Boulevard. Actually, Director, if you don't mind, this question is more so for you. I know last time we talked, you said something along the lines, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, that it wasn't really as useful and kind of based on some of your research. I've been doing a lot more of my research as well and reaching out to different municipalities around the area. Could you provide me with what, not for tonight clearly, but at least for the next meeting or through an email is actually perfectly fine. What I'm looking to find out is, in order to move forward with and advance and address the concerns of the neighborhoods in terms of pedestrian safety, is there a way to do a cost analysis as to how many posts we would actually need? Would that go through traffic engineering on Narragansett Boulevard?
I assume you're getting at how much would this cost?
Yeah,
So I did find a resource that gave dollar amounts per lane mile. The distance from Montgomery Ave to Sefton Ave, which is essentially where the bike lane is, just south of Sefton Ave is where that, there's a bioretention basin over there. So the road narrows, it's 2 miles, one either way. And the cost estimate on that was about $25,000 a mile. So 50,000.
all right. So each delineator is roughly about $1 a piece or so.
I believe for the delineator, not including installation, yes.
So you're talking about 20, did you say 25,000
Per
2
lane
miles?
mile, yes. 50 for 2 miles.
On the one side, only on one side?
Well, there are bike lanes on both sides of the road.
Not all the way, though,
Up to Sefton Ave, they're on
But-
both sides.
but not from Montgomery. Because Montgomery ends, at the end of Montgomery is like with Shell gas station is.
Yeah,
And
that's the
then
line
up
with
the Harbor
Providence, yeah.
side, there's no bike lane on that side.
Okay, we can do one side on up to there.
Yeah, would you be able to do a full cost analysis in terms of what the delineator is on the start of the crossing walk? I'm not talking about just a small area, but the actual area where you see, it's painted on the road strip in Narragansett
Mhm.
Boulevard. It's on both sides, but it doesn't start on both sides at in the same place, if you follow what I'm saying.
I think it
One-
changes at Norwood, I
It kind
believe.
of changes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out what the cost on that entails. That sounds like a lot of money based on my conversations with municipalities that they've covered less than 2 miles and it hasn't been that costly. So,
okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, I
just
can take
sending
another
me the
look at it. This
resources
is just a
and where it
couple of
is.
sources that I read online.
And the installation of that, is that something that the city has the manpower to do, or the woman power to do?
I would have to look into that. I'm not sure that the highway department has the equipment or the capabilities to do that installation. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, I would appreciate if you can give it a look. I'm gonna keep it on here. I am a big proponent on this initiative. And I do plan on moving forward with this in one way, shape or the other. There's been a lot of folks who've been reaching out on this. And I mean, we see it all over the state right now. Actually, I just saw it even on 95 and they were putting it on the way in there. Just for safety reasons. And I actually I was bumper to bumper and literally was able to actually have a quick conversation with one of the DOT folks. And I said, where do you guys put this up? I'm just concerned. They're like, it's safety reason, it works. So it kind of contradicts a little bit depending on what road it is clearly.
Yep.
But I just want to make sure you can get a cost analysis and that would be great.
Yeah, I
appreciate
can
that.
look into that for you. I also found a resource that I would love to share with you. It was 14 different ways to separate bike lanes, delineators being one. Like I mentioned last month, there are a lot of different options. We can weigh which one we like the best. So if you don't mind, I'd love to forward that to you.
Yeah,
We can talk about it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The next item of business actually might go for you as well. You had answered some of the questions on the Rhode Island DOT Municipal Road and Bridge Program opportunities. I think you had said that we were putting in for some applications on this.
Correct, yep.
We've heard back, I believe one has been approved already.
There have been many more added since, yes.
Okay. Are any of them for sidewalks?
As of right now, there has not been any for sidewalks, no.
They just bridges?
Road paving.
Okay, there was one that was submitted right in front of Cranston East, right over here. Do you know what that one was for then?
Road paving.
So they're all road paving? Okay. Are we submitting, did we submit all of our like every application for everything that we want to do out of that 33% match? The deadline is this weekend, that's why I'm asking.
Yep, deadline's tomorrow. I have completed approximately 75% of it. I will finish up the last 25 tomorrow.
Okay, the one that was approved already, because you can go on the website and it tells you right
Mhm.
away when they were approved. How does that work? Do we get the funding and is that for the following year? To be done for the paving, given the fact that it's October already?
The dates that I gave were from from April of next year until December of 2026. So
Okay.
anytime within the eligible time to spend that money is when it will get done.
All right, because that's for sidewalks and the applications due tomorrow. Are we submitting additional application between now and tomorrow?
Yes,
on
we
the
will be
six-
submitting more applications, yes.
Anything in Ward 1, top of your head?
I don't have the list available right now. I have to figure those out tomorrow.
Okay, if you don't mind sending me an email, that is perfectly. Next meeting, just letting me know if any of the applications are particularly within the eastern side of the city, particularly
Okay.
Edgewood area, and the friendly community, which encompasses Ward 1 area. I'm just curious to find out if there's anything that the city has submitted an application for those neck of the woods on sidewalk or roads or paving or anything along those lines.
I'll send you an email before the end of the day tomorrow.
All right,
Yeah, so as I'm choosing these roads, a consideration that I'm taking is where I imagine there is gonna be utility work. If utilities are doing the work, they pave the roads for us, so I don't want to allocate any of those roads because then that's now money that we've lost per this grant. A lot of Ward One has gas work in it. So I'll try to work around that area, but I do know Rhode Island Energy has a lot of work in there and I just don't have time to go back and forth with Rhode Island Energy and are you in this road or not? So I'm trying to stay away from utility impacted roads for this
So-
grant.
Okay, so just to follow up on that real quickly, do you have a list of the work that the utility
No.
company, at least within the next year, may have in line in terms of the city of Cranston, where they're looking to do any type of or not just utility, but obviously the water and other
I do
initiatives?
have water's lead service replacement map. I've tried countless times to get Rhode Island Energy's information. It's top secret. Can't get it.
So if we as a city say to them, listen, these are the roads that we would like to pave starting in April. Is there any way that at least they can say, we have plans of potential, like there's a 90% chance that we're going to do work?
Yeah,
in
they know
April
where
on
they're
this?
gonna work. Anytime we pave a road, I check with Providence Water and Rhode Island Energy to make sure that they don't have this road in their 5-year plan. So anytime we pave the road, I check with utilities to make sure that we're not impacting their work.
Okay. All right, I may have a couple of questions after you sent me the email on
Yeah,
that.
okay,
If-
we can talk.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions on this topic? Councilwoman Manzoli?
Thank you, Chairman. Director, are you well versed in the utility digging bill that had passed at the General Assembly or no?
Is that the one from 2019, the Utility Fair Share Roadway Repair Act? That's the only
No. this was from-
legislation I know related to utilities.
No, this was from this year, but
Council-
the governor had,
Sorry, Councilwoman Manzoli, does it kind of, not to kind of cut you off, I apologize. I just want to make sure that we don't go offline. Does it have to do with roads and bridge, the program opportunities?
it has to do with
item.
utilities tearing up the roads that we pave.
Okay,
I just
so,
want to make sure that that as the state starts passing these laws and we start doing our work, that we are getting what's going on so that we can hold the utility accountable. That's all.
can I actually propose that we add maybe that discussion to the next Public Works Committee meeting? Because I actually may want to elaborate a little bit about what you're saying and what I need. So to the clerk, maybe we can actually send her an email, make sure that we know what the
Yep.
clerk's going to put on for Public Works, just so we don't go out of line on this subject.
Bring it to the director's attention so that when we do talk about it, I'm not catching them off guard.
Thank you. You're giving me some couple of other questions that I want to ask. It probably relates to that. All right. Any other questions? All right. Public comment. Is anybody here just in the public that would like to speak on subject docketed matters only? If you can, your name and your address for the record, ma'am, and make sure again, this has to be on docketed matters only.
Kimberly Bogosian, 45 Mount View Drive. I put my full trust into Councilman Dan Wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Tom, is there anybody on Zoom? Docketed items.
I see no public comment at this time. Just a reminder to the public that they need to use the raise hand function in Zoom or dial *9 on a phone. I see no public comment.
Thank you, Tom. Next item is new committee petition of Narragansett Electric and Verizon New England Incorporation for relocation of a pole on Cranston Street. Is there a motion to approve the item?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none. To the clerk, can you please take the roll?
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Next item, so I have a few items on here and I the up to Works Director, would it be possible that you also provide us a cost analysis and you can send me an email as well and I can share it on a bike rack in Patuxent Village? There's been I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. I was in the village over the weekend as well. There was a state representative as well who brought it to my attention. Bike rack, particularly in an identified location where it's still going to be accessible for the pedestrians to still use a sidewalk. There's 2 locations that I identified, but I'm not an engineer, right? So I'd like to work with you, the administration, on possible costs on a bike rack, the installation of it, and placing it within the city. If we and anyone else who would be involved in a process like this, before say if I have an interest with all in introducing some sort of a ordinance or resolution on a bike rack if is needed.
Yeah, we can certainly work together. If you have locations in mind, I am happy to take a look at them and give you my opinion, and we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I see Director Moretti also has a question or concern.
On something like that, if you want, I'm sure we could find the money for it. It's not gonna be that expensive. If you just want to give us a call and we can just find the money in the budget, we'll just get it done for you.
I appreciate that. It's not too often that I hear that, the money, but I will then send you an email of the 2 locations. And then from there, we can assess it and get a sense as to how we can move forward, hopefully with the bike rack. There's absolutely not a single bike rack in the village. So I appreciate that. Thank you. The other item was the update on the CDBG. Tom and I've kind of discussed it already. The other part was on the city playground assessments and cost analysis. To our finance director, there was some capital improvement funds in our budget, one or maybe 2 budgets ago that were in there. There was some of the parents from the PTA have, kind of given that a digest. We've been in communications, briefly touched upon it with you as well just a little while ago. And the administration, of course, I had the opportunity to talk to the mayor about it as well. Can we confirm if in the capital investment project, is there $150,000 in there at all that has to do with possibly allocating that towards the playground?
To the chair, it was 110,000.
Okay.
It was in the approved FY 17-18 approved capital plan.
So that was not used.
Through the chair, just from the plan, from the document, I can tell you it was approved. From the pictures I've seen that were shown to me, I find it highly unlikely that that park was improved 5 years ago. So I'm going to make an assumption that it was not spent yet. And as I told you, we can go back 5 years and see what expenditures were made for capital improvements and confirm my supposition.
I appreciate that. And if there was any penny at all that was spent, particularly on a playground or that funding that was allocated for that, it was spent on something else, I would like to know what it was spent on, the expenditures on that end. But if you can confirm that, you can send me an email. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem. Or you can send it to the clerk and the clerk can actually share it with all of us. That's not a problem either. I just want to make sure that if we do in fact have funds there, that's an additional dollars that we have that could be used obviously for the repair of the playground.
That's correct. We shall do that.
Yeah, just to add to that, I was involved, some emails were sent to me over the weekend from one of the persons who used to live in the area, now moved, but they looped in, the PTO co-president, co-chair. And, the issue came up over, approve $115,000 of, capital money, and we confirmed that it has not been used, but he'll reconfirm it as, however, it didn't, yeah, they were saying the money got lost. It cannot be redirected. Even the prior administration. So we are directing purchasing to work with the recreation director to begin work to get that playground up and running.
I appreciate that. I just want to confirm that that wasn't dollars that was allocated towards the tennis court. That was done over on Bay, depending on where you're coming from, it could either be on Bayview Ave or Smith Street.
It specifically
Mentions the playground, so I just want to make sure that the funds,
it could not be allocated elsewhere because that line item does specify Edgewood Highland Playground.
great, thank
So
you.
we're gonna get moving on that.
All right, I appreciate that. Just so everybody knows at least some of the latest kind of developments. I had the opportunity to talk to a few different companies and also folks who assess playgrounds around the state. And one of them who we're also familiar with, which is John LaRue, that we know has done assessments of our playgrounds and parks and does it all around like New England area and the Northeast coast. He did the assessment last 2022. And that assessment was actually paid by LISC, which is a organization that focuses on trying to assess the different playgrounds that are available, particularly for children in school age playgrounds. It was not actually assessed by the actual administration. However, that information was sent to the administration is the information that I was able to get. He's welcomed the opportunity to come before us if we have any questions in terms of playgrounds, the assessment at all within the city. I personally think that we should be assessing all of our playgrounds that are on the school side first, which I would be in full support of that if we do it correctly. But I wanted to also mention that to get the Edgewood playground assessed, if needed for like nonprofits, it's usually a charge around $495. I know the last time we talked about this area, we weren't sure what it's going to cost to assess, or it would be around the $795 to assess the playground. He actually had shared that they just assessed all 34 playgrounds in Fall River. Actually, it took not a month, it took a little bit longer because they do a full assessment of every playground, safety, you name it. It might be worth us definitely doing this as a city. But first and foremost, we should assess that playground, which is, we got the 2022 one, clearly hasn't improved, it's gotten worse. Assess that, and then hopefully down the line be able to, if it's not through matter of a grant, is being able to actually check if we have that $150,000, 110, but then now you said 150, wait, sorry, 110,000. We'll confirm that number with the administration, and then it's roughly going to cost us, at least for that playground, about $200,000 to $250,000. It's the number that I've been getting and chatting with everyone. Again, it's the reason why there's been some dollars set aside for various different playgrounds. Not every playground needs that full dollar amount, and some need actually more. And this is a proven point of this one. So that's where we are on that. There's a lot more information. I'm not going to fill you in with all the documents and everything else that I've been information that I've been recently provided. But I want to at least let those that are watching or will watch and the council members know that we're moving along hopefully in the right direction, at least with this playground. And I've communicated that with the PTA president as as well. That being said, does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. That being said, I am good with with all the other items, other than letting the clerk know to continue to keep the city playground assessment and cost analysis on there for the next Public Works Committee meeting. And in terms of the grant information request for the playgrounds, to the Park and Rec Director, Smith Street, and working with like just the grant writer and reaching out to Rhode Island DEM. And I've had conversations, just kind of getting a sense as to what are the info that they would need is square footage of, and maybe we can work and talk about this offline, but that's information that a grant writer needs potentially from the city in terms of, do we want lights? So we want benches? What is the cost analysis of the toys that we potentially want? The layout of it, the structure, trees, no trees, fences, things along those lines. Can I work with you to make sure
Sure.
that
We recently cleaned Smith Street out, trees, bushes, brushes, weeds. We do have plans to replace that playground also, and we're working on that now. I'm working with people in the organization.
I appreciate it. I know I mentioned CDBG.
I do
at the
have-
Public
yes.
Works, and I think that it's an
I do
area
have-
where it qualifies.
Old site plans, I can at least start with them and then update them, because I'm sure prices, have gone up.
That's perfectly fine. Joe LaRue also mentioned he had some site plans on there. He
Mhm.
said he's more than willing and he would bid. I can't say yes or no, but I don't want to get into that, but I would hope that we can actually write a scope of work if we ever needed when we got to that point. But the site plans would definitely be needed, at least for grant purposes.
Sounds
So I'm hoping that maybe we can have a conversation tomorrow in the afternoon.
Sure.
If we are around. Okay. we
I'm
can talk
free
about that.
anytime afternoon.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Same on my end. All right. Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you to the chair, to the director. Director, I'm just, and I hope that I'm not going off topic, but I understand that Edgewood Highlands is the primary focus right now because that's a playground that is closed. But is there going to be a plan to do a comprehensive citywide
We've been,
assessment?
I'm sorry to interrupt. We've been doing that since the last council meeting when you gave me the ideas. That's a great idea. There's nothing in the system right now that has a checking system other than my work is to go out there and work. Me, my two foremen, people that frequent the playground and constituents. With that being said, I've formulated about 6 or 7, maybe more than that, checklists of various playground checklists. Gave them to 2 of the kids that have been going around. I call them kids, but they're young men. And they have been trying to figure out which ones fit, which ones are best. And then we're going to try to compile all of these. I have, some of the copies of them and come up with a form that we're going to use universally. And what it does is some of the things that are said on the form, and I'm just going to read one because there's a pretty simple one, is, excuse me. General inspection, playground area free of litter. So pass, fail, problem, what your solution is. And I can share this with you if you'd like. Equipment not damaged or vandalized, surfacing, adequate depth of the product, surfacing material free of glass debris. So it's a continuous thing, and some are redundant, some of them are not applicable. So this is what we're trying to do, get these different checklists that we have, come up with our own City of Cranston checklist and get around to the playgrounds. We've hit a lot of them, not as extensive as Mr. LaRue had done, say in Fall River, because I've seen what they do at those playgrounds. For instance, I see a crack on the side of a panel, and if you'd like, I'll share you with some of the things we discovered. I'm not sure if that's structural problem. To me, it seems fine. We jump on it, we push it. However, an official playground inspector may say, no, that's a fault and that's a damage and you can't have that. So I have certain things that we've already come across we can address by fixing, buying parts, replacing some of these parts. A lot of the mounting and the footing of some of the cement units, we can't do. We have to bring somebody in. And I have a gentleman, a few guys that bid on stuff like that. So that's what we're doing right now. Some playgrounds are more than others. I put in on most playgrounds. So for instance, we replace parts all the time, rings, hooks, change, S hooks, brackets. So when you see, when you see the, this initial report,
A lot of the playgrounds was cost $7,500. Well, a lot of it is, and it's explanatory, topping off with the mulch. Even though we went around and did mulch, the playgrounds still have 2 to 3 inches. Commercial, for instance, I was there yesterday picking up toys. At least 3 to 4 inches from the curbing. However, when you walk on it and you move it, it's got enough protective surface, but to fill that up. So this is what I'm up against, getting it flush. If we continue to allocate money for the mulch, we can stay on all the playgrounds year round.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. The other thing is that it's not just regular mulch. It actually requires a special type of wood chip.
Oh,
like the wood
that's what
fiber
I'm
one.
saying, mulch. It's an engineered wood fiber that's designed and it was put because it's handicap accessible in difference with sand.
It is. Landscape Structure is the company who actually built the toys over at Edgewood Playground. I'm wondering, it's worth giving them a call to find out if anything that we need could potentially be provided.
Edgewood Highlands was Big Toy
Landscape.
Products and landscapes.
It's not Big Toys. It was actually Landscape.
Well,
I would,
landscape is the person that put it in.
And
Big
then-
Toy is the product.
okay, can you double check with John LaRue? I
Yeah.
talked to him. He said they were
I'm
not
just
Big
going
Toy
on a sheet of
products.
city
Okay.
playgrounds and it's
Yeah.
1999,
Yeah.
Big Toy, Edgewood Highlands.
Yeah, great. The other thing is, and we can talk about this as we get closer into the
Mhm.
budget at some point or even, but is, it might be worth down the line, even you're saying that you're doing a comprehensive list of the playgrounds, but the National Association of Playground also has certifications that they do. And they do it for municipalities, and that way a municipality can also invest in professional development for our own staff, so we can actually have someone on staff that
We-
does assessment.
We,
It's a little costly, but it might be worth having that conversation.
we have already started
fine.
that. We've already started that. Every year in New England, they hold one. Luckily, this year it's in Rhode Island, so that'll save us travel. We've already talked to the 2 gentlemen that go around doing the playgrounds. They're more than willing to engage in this. So it's done professionally.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's gonna be North Kingstown. So, all right, I appreciate the update. Thank you so much on that. If no one has any questions or any other concerns, is there a motion to adjourn?
Chair, can I add to this? please?
Absolutely.
Couple of thoughts related to it. Just to be clear, I think the mayor nor myself was provided that report. You mentioned the administration received that report from 2022. The mayor and I did not. I was told by the director it was dropped off in the recreation department, but it didn't make its way to the mayor or myself. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. You're correct. It is
I hope we can correct that going forward. So when you get documents, it gets eventually documented correctly and that we don't lose sight of any potential.
Yeah, I
important
think the
documents.
director got the
Okay.
message. Thank you. Correct, it is $110,000 from 20, not 115, as I was saying. As to CDBG funds, the mayor is looking to, after it's approved by the feds, to reallocate, I shouldn't say reallocate funds from CBD into Smith. So that's the intention for the springtime. And the other thing is, you had on here city playground assessment and cost analysis. I believe the director has prepared something. Would you like to discuss that or you're continuing that? We may as well address it. I think he's done the preparation to address the matter. I'm not quite sure what you
On
want.
what the cost analysis would act for our playgrounds, particularly in the school areas.
Yeah.
You know what, that's fine. If you want to go ahead and give us that real quick, if there's no objections on
Yeah.
anyone right now, we're already on this subject.
Yeah, the
and it may-
director can speak to it himself if you like.
Yep, that's fine, because I just mentioned again, I know like, for example, Sarah just did theirs, it'd be interesting what the cost approximately would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You say you like them, what I have printed out.
yeah, what is?
And again, I can't go through every one of these.
Nope,
Point by point, look at it. If you have any questions,
No. So here's what I'm looking for, director, is I don't think, I don't want to speak on behalf of any other council members, but at least for myself, I don't think I need the cost analysis of what it's going to take for each playground. But if
Okay.
we can at least give a ballpark estimate of what it would take to do an assessment of all of the playgrounds that are on school site first as a
Okay.
priority, just to get that dollar amount. And the reason why I'm asking is that there were a couple of, things that were in ordinance and resolutions that were introduced on our playgrounds. And so the cost analysis for me is quite important because if we're going to be doing an analysis of an evaluation or an audit, depending what term you'd like to use on our playgrounds and the school sites, it would give us an understanding what the cost is so we could possibly have some language maybe introduced later on or have a conversation. How do we move forward with that and give us an idea at least what the cost is on that, with the understanding that if you do an assessment of a playground, it's not that we're going to sit with that assessment now for like 5 years, because then it would be we would be just throwing pennies down the drain.
In the list that I had made, there was 5 or 6 playgrounds prioritized. Administration had asked me to prioritize them. Obviously, Edgewood being the top one, and they were numbered. A lot of them are just minor adjustments, but there are 4, 5, or 6. Some of them do include schools that work has to be done. And those numbers are higher than what I put in, but I'll regroup on this. When we speak tomorrow, I can speak in detail with it.
Yeah, I would appreciate it because I
Okay.
think it would be worth reaching out to at least get just a request of it for information as to what possibly an assessment cost would be on our playground.
For an outside group to do it?
Well, it depends. I mean, if we're certified to do it, right?
Well,
'Cause if we're not
the
certified-
course is in the spring. So that's the earliest I can get, my 2 of my men accredited. But Mr. LaRue was only one inspector, but I believe he's about $700 per playground. He sent me a printout on that, which I do have also. I could share, but I'm not saying
I
that's the only
appreciate you
show in
sharing
town.
A lot of information.
Okay.
Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion, suggestions, concerns? No? Okay. Criticism? No? Okay. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All right, all in favor, say yay. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I got you. All in favor, say nay. All right. Yeas have it. Meeting adjourned. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Ordinance Committee meeting. It is Thursday, October 12th. To the clerk, can you please take a roll call?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Here.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes. Approval of minutes of the September 14, 2023 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Thank you. Next item of business is the committee business matters carried over. We have 23-04. That is ordinance and amendment of chapter 15 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Buildings and Constructions, Lead Safe Homes. This is sponsored by Councilman Donegan and it is co-sponsored by Councilman Jermaine. This was continued a few times. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you.
Councilman Donegan. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So after quite a few months of discussion and research by our council attorney, Angel, which is much appreciated, I would like to move forward with the ordinance this evening. There are 2 very minor changes that I would like to recommend. The first would be on line 36. So I'll make a motion to amend line 36 to remove the word residential.
You put a motion to remove that, Councilman Donegan. I'm just wondering if you're gonna
Second,
replace it by anything. So is there a second discussion?
So the reason for that is by removing the word residential, there are commercial complexes with residences. So by removing the word residential, it removes the ambiguity over, does this apply to a commercial residential development or not? It just applies to property. And property is even further defined by what is subject to existing Rhode Island law, which is really all this ordinance does.
All right, so you're removing residential and you're adding nothing, just leaving
Nothing,
it the way
just
it is?
removing the word.
And that goes in code with the state, you said, language?
So I guess I'll back up. The ordinance itself, the objective here is to better ensure that properties within our city are complying with existing lead safety legislation, which is at the state level. By passing this ordinance, it gives our local inspections department an enforcement mechanism to enforce that state law here at the local level. And that's what this ordinance would do. The term property this ordinance only applies to properties that are subject to that state law. So this won't change any of that. This isn't adding any new requirement on in terms of what they have to do other than filing a copy of the certificate with the city.
Got it. So for this particular matter only, that's what we'll know that property strictly means a residential, well, it's not gonna have the word residential, but it would mean that it's a livable unit, right?
It's any property that is subject to the Rhode Island state law.
Thank you. Council President Marino.
Councilman Donegan, though, do you have other amendments to make? Okay, I'll wait for your amendments and then if I could through the chair, comment on something. If he doesn't cover it, I would like to have amended too.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to remove the word residential from line 36. To the clerk, can you please take the roll call on that? Sorry, is there any additional discussion on that? No? Okay. Through the chair, can you please take a roll call on that?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. The final amendment that I have planned, though I'm open to others, is subject to line 56. Line 56 currently reads, this ordinance will take effect upon its final adoption. I would like to amend line 56 to read, this ordinance shall take effect immediately, comma, however, comma, enforcement shall commence on July 1, 2024. And if someone will second that motion, I'll explain.
Second,
So the reason for this is, and it's something that I remember Councilman Paplaskas and I structured the language of the plastic bag ordinance to be something similar. That way it goes on the books, but enforcement of it is stayed for, in this instance, it would be about 8 or 9 months. And what that would do is it would allow for time for people to come into compliance with it. So for, all of us through our, various networks, social media, email, maybe a post in the Herald, whatever it might be, any sort of communications campaign that we'd like to go put forth as a city to educate people about this. And that way, people have an opportunity, both time and informationally, to become familiar with this ordinance so that they can come into compliance.
Okay. For the discussion on this item? On this motion? Nope. Okay. Through the clerk, can you please take a roll call on that?
Council Vice President Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
I have no further amendments.
Councilman Donegan, I had a
Through the
question for
chair,
you.
I just
Oh,
have a
sorry.
question for legal. Would this be considered a major amendment to be re-advertised?
Donna, on this ordinance, the fine collected, right, the $250 as we see on line 43, and then continued increase on there. Where are those funds being allocated to?
They would go into the regular line item revenue. Off the top of my head, the inspections department has a revenue line item related to building code. It would go into that line item.
Would there be any appetite at all if any revenue that was actually received on this to be set aside to also, I know there's a lot in a way of folks, organizations educating folks on just lead safe homes. Anytime that we have any dollars coming in, we can obviously set it as revenue, but there's also an opportunity if we create our own line item, I don't know, stabilization fund or anything along those lines where these funds could potentially be added. And the other part of this is, question that I have is the enforcement of this. How will our building inspectors enforce the lead safe homes? So do I, as a tenant, call, right, the city and they come out? How much time does the city also have on our end to go out and look at the property? Is our building inspectors, I would hope, but I don't want to assume, certified to test for lead safe and know what they're looking for as well? I'll start off with those questions.
Regarding, I guess the first one regarding the revenue. So this ordinance is a considerably slimmed down version of the safe occupancy certificate ordinance from last term, which I'm glad to see Providence is now pursuing, because I think it's good legislation or something similar. And that ordinance was going to create a housing rehabilitation fund. I think that is a great idea. I think it's something that we should pursue. I'm not sure that doing it on the floor with the current amendment, with the current ordinance would be I guess I would like to see this move forward. And then if we'd like to come back even as early as next month to create said account, that would be fine. In terms of enforcement, I would leave that up to the administration.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the $200 as a result of a penalty. I do wish that we could actually set some funds aside for it. I see the council president's hand up, but I just want to finish my thought. I just wish that we could actually put some revenue as we can. I will support this the way it is, but maybe if it passes, giving this a look and getting a sense as to the revenue that's coming in, particularly working whether it's with our finance director on how we can allocate certain, what you mentioned in terms of Providence, it's being done on Housing Stabilization Fund as well. And in some cities as well, obviously there's some lesson learned on what has worked and what hasn't in certain cities. And the only reason why is because there was a nuisance ordinance that was passed. And I'm gonna tell you, it is still hardly, it's hardly enforced, and it could be because it's just a lack of, you know, we don't have enough staffing. Or it's the tracking of properties that are coming before us on the nuisance. We have a nuisance task force. It's supposed to be led, as a matter of fact, by the Public Works Director, I believe it is, on the ordinance. It hasn't met yet. Again, I'm not trying to belittle this. This is important. Lead safe is huge. It's big, and I support this. But I also want to make sure that as an executive branch, and sorry, as a legislative branch, we introduce ordinance laws. It is up to the executive to enforce it. And I'm just, sometimes I get tired of supporting certain ordinance because you're all for great initiatives. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. But if there's no enforcement on it, I just don't like to see things on the books that we're not enforcing. And that's not up to us. It's up to the executive. But I also want to make sure that we also educate folks and cooperate and help out with other organizations on Let's Safe Home in Cranston, and that we can also let landlords know if we put money aside, like Cranston means business. Like this is safe. This is a safe approach for our kids and for anybody who occupies a house with lead. And so that's why I'm going for to that.
Thank you.
So-
And to that point, and I know, you know, in the development of this ordinance, you know, I've spoken with and had meetings with childhood lead action, housing advocates, housing advocacy organizations, the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, and obviously legal counsel at the city level, as well as discussions with local organizations such as the Health Equity Zone.
Thank
So-
you. I everything in the state for all of that. President Marino.
Sure. Before I speak, I think City Council Attorney Angel has something to say, and then I'll speak. Thanks.
So two things. We're not imposing a different degree of inspection than what is required by state law. What this ordinance does is require the recordation of the state statute required certificate, period. That's what we're doing. That's pretty easy to follow, actually. The state law imposes requirements on landlords, commercial or otherwise, who have lead in the home. They have to make certain recordings with the Department of Health, advising them that they've had a lead inspection done by a certified lead inspector. Following that, they get a particular writing from the Department of Health that evidences that. Those inspections have to be done every so many years. All we're doing with this is requiring that certification be recorded in the city. They either record or they don't. They're either in compliance or they're not. So I don't really see that anybody should have to leave the building to some extent on that. As far as the fines go and, you know, where they go when the money comes in, you can amend this ordinance afterwards. But if you were to amend the ordinance on the floor to include a provision as to where any fines received go, that would require re-advertisement since it is a substantial change to the ordinance.
Thank you, Council President Marino.
Thank you. Councilman Donegan, thank you for your work on this and your patience in getting it right with the evolution of the state law so that we made sure there's consistency and have the right ordinance to fit going forward. The question I had that I was looking to entertain a motion to amend is on line 44. I would like to see the word shall on line 44 changed to may. And the reason for that is earlier in the ordinance on line 42, it says failure to submit the certification shall result in a penalty of $250 paid to the city of Cranston. I'm okay with that. But my concern is in furtherance, when it says if the violation is not corrected within 60 days, the fine shall increase. And there may be some unknown hardship for the property owner. They could be, a senior citizen and fallen ill. They could just be a regular person who fell ill. So I would like to give the discretion within the citing body, the municipal court, to have discretion with the fine beyond the initial $250. So if that's something you'd be inclined to entertain, I would like to have a motion to change the word. Is that agreeable, Councilman Donovan? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And if you found it appropriate for the initial fine to be at the discretion up to 250, I'm also okay with that as well.
Yeah, I think the shall for the initial fine is sufficient. I'd like to make a motion then to amend on line 44, strike the word shall and add the word may.
Second.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thank you.
Council President on this, because we've often have heard our chief judge or folks from the municipal court saying that some of their most the amount of the cases that they actually hear tend to be from folks that are seniors, particularly on nuisance property, or they can't keep up with their property. And they may have some sort of a hardship on there. So I'm in agreement with the council president on that motion. So you made the motion, Council President. I think Council Member Jermaine just seconded that. Is there any further discussion on that motion? No, through the clerk, can you please take a roll on that, please?
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Donegan.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
Second.
All right, discussion? All right, hearing none, through the clerk, can you please, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize if I missed this, but is this gonna be, how is it that we're tracking this in your eyes? I know you can't tell the administration how to track this, but I know the Department of Health is supposed to make a public registry. So is that what we're using to see if did you register with the state? Oh, okay, you should register with us. You didn't register with us? Here's a fine. Is that how I just want to make sure we're not being like duplicative and trying to like gotcha people who registered with the state and maybe didn't know yet, but you know what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure that we're not being, I understand and I totally agree. I want people to have lead safe homes, but I don't want to be known as, the city that dings people when they obviously have their certificate. They just didn't file it with us. How are we tracking this? And do we need to implement some kind of system? And if we do, does that system cost money? And then do we need a fiscal note? And it just is a whole line of things. Because I think that the state passed a lot of good law about this, but I don't want to be too, inundated of people.
Yeah, obviously the intent is to not gotcha anyone. I think that no matter what we do or what the ordinance is, there are always going to be those hypothetical situations where that could occur. The objective here is to hold accountable those that are not in any compliance with the lead safe laws that are on the books and that have been on the books for at this point, decades. So that's the objective. In terms of enforcement, I mean, there are certainly ways that through, that inspections, I would imagine, and I'm taking this from conversations about previous iterations of a certificate of safe occupancy ordinance, is that inspections could talk with our tax department and identify properties that are likely renting or that are multifamily, and that could be one way to identify where what properties might be captured under this, and then use records to identify what homes are pre-1978.
Okay. And did we, through the administration, to the building official, or, who would be in charge, do they have any opinion on this and how it's going to affect their work?
Council President Marino.
Thank you to the chair. Throw out a suggestion is perhaps the tax bill, when it goes out, can make mention of this new ordinance. That way it alerts property owners of the need to file their certificate. Or if the administration would be inclined to do that.
And I'll add something to that, actually, even to what you just said as well, Council President Marino, is that I wish we can actually send out an entire newsletter to all our residents, and here's why I say this. Is because when it comes down to like the tracking, which is the reason why I was really asking earlier, is if you recall, there was also an ordinance that was introduced on cemeteries. And the cemeteries was that private cemeteries were to report to our city where the plot is, who's pretty much the yearly plot in terms of who's buried kind of where, right? What plots are available, what they have, how many do they have available? It hasn't been done. So I just want to make sure that, again, this continues. This will also be done. So, a little bit of two kind of somewhat different things, but the idea is that people still have to provide information to us versus we send information out, and it's their responsibility and their due diligence should be done. So I don't know if the administration, if to answer Councilwoman Renzoli's question, if you have any concerns or would you like to share anything before we vote on this?
Well, it would have to be discussed. There's no program in place. It would have to be discussed with inspection. So don't know what the tracking mechanism would be. The one thing I think we do need is a possibly fiscal note, because one of two choices. I think either you can add staff to monitor this, because you have to chase people down, because it'll come July 1st, if they're not complied, I don't know, but you're gonna have to track down every resident that every homeowner in the city. So this is gonna take resources. That, or you can take from the resources out of there, inspectors, take them off minimum housing and things like that. But otherwise, I don't know how they're gonna be able to do both, to do their jobs with this incremental workload. That would be the question.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
So that's kind of what I'm asking, because this has been continued a bunch of times. So I would hope that the inspections department, the building official has some kind of opinion or suggestions on how to make it work, or to say this is not going to work. Because I also have fears that it will turn into a thing like the overnight parking. It's a law. Not everyone knows it's a law, and it only gets, we only follow it when we can, when the police are in that area, there's extra people to do it. So then people say that it's not equitable because some people are getting ticketed and some people aren't. So some people are going to be found to not comply, and they're going to pay $250, which is kind of a significant amount of money. And, someone else doesn't, just because they didn't necessarily get caught. So I want to make sure that we're doing this where it's going across the board and we're actually accomplishing something, because it is important. But if we can't enforce it, then like Councilwoman Vargas said, what are we doing? So I would hope that the building official had an opinion or someone on how we can make this work or not make it what we have to do to make something happen. And does it cost anything? I don't think that that's like a ridiculous thing to ask.
Chairman.
Councilman Donegan.
I think all of these are legitimate questions. But I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be upfront. I think we are getting to a point here where I think we're overthinking some of this. We are talking about people who are subject to a law, who already have to do something, sending a certificate, uploading a certificate to the city or sending it to the city, and the city saying, okay, we got it. And the city would have 9 months to identify which properties this would likely apply to. That's a long time to figure this out for enforcement. I don't think we need to hire anyone new. No one's going to have to go out and inspect a property. We're talking about sending some letters and it's paperwork. Come on, no offense. I think we can handle this. I don't think we need to hire more people to do this. And if we have to hire more people to do this, then
Mazzoli.
Councilman Donegan, I don't want you to think that I was insinuating that we had to hire someone. What I was trying to say is that we need to find a way to actually accomplish this, or we're not doing anything. We're presenting ideas and then they don't get enforced because we haven't either worked with the administration or done it in a way where it's possible. We're asking them to do something, but we can't say how exactly to do it. But if we don't have these discussions behind the scenes and know that they're going to do it, then we're going to be back here frustrated that things aren't getting done. So I don't know if you, because you've been working on this, if you've had conversations with the Department of Health, they must have already identified these residences that are supposed to upload to them. So maybe they can tell us, Cranston, these are the residences that are supposed to do this. These are the ones who did for us. These are the ones who didn't. You go ahead, ding them. I don't know, but there has to be a way that I don't want to say make it easier, but we can't make it more. Paperwork is still a job, and administrative work is, takes time. And then it's taken time maybe for someone who should be out actually inspecting someone sitting at a desk looking for paperwork. And if we're not keeping this digitally, I don't know what happens with that paperwork. Sometimes I walk into City Hall and it seems like it's still 1950 in here. So we have to find a way to make this better for when we're not even here doing this. Someone else is going to be doing it. And maybe they're not passionate about it and it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just saying we have to, if we put things forward, there should be a way that we enforce it, and we should know that there's the money there to do if it needs to, or the process is. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Council President Marino. Council Donegan.
I'll just say that I'm willing to do everything in my role to work with the administration from, hopefully this comes out of committee tonight to the end of the month it passes and begin enforcement in July of next year. I will do everything in my ability to work with the administration, work with the buildings department, work with community organizations, the Department of Health, and any other pertinent body to try and to make enforcement work. But I can't legislate that. That's not what this is, I'm here to do. I can't legislate and make the department or them do their job.
Council President Marino.
Thank you. While I appreciate the concern of the execution on this law if we pass it, however, it is the role of our city government. This is their full-time job, and we've all heard complaints of full-time employment in different departments from constituents, whether right or wrong, of not measuring up. We have a responsibility, I think, to pass an ordinance like this where it preserves the safety with respect to lead. It is not a Herculean task. There's plenty of time to figure out the kinks as to how they're going to operate this on a regular basis. And again, it's their full-time job. We as council members are a part-time body. This agenda item has been on here for months. There has been ample opportunity for those departments, if they had concerns, to express those concerns this evening. That hasn't happened. I want to move forward with responsible legislation. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, just quickly. John has shrunk this thing to a point where it can't be shrunk anymore. He made it cost far less than it would have cost when he originally submitted it 6 or 9 months ago, whenever it was. How many times has it been continued? I really think that it's at a point now where it's something we can all work with. I support it as it stands amended. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jermaine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This ordinance is long overdue. Long overdue. And as Council President just mentioned, we had plenty time to address anything. Yeah, so I don't think that's one of the problem we have in this city. I don't think as the council, we have the duty to enforce. That's not our duty. We legislate and we have the executive branch to make sure they enforce. So if we have to come back to address the enforcement, the implementation, because that's not our job. We do not have the job to enforce, implement it. So if we need to come back with another legislation to make sure the enforcement, the implementation done correctly, so we have to come back. But at this time, I think it's time we have to have a vote that this cannot wait anymore, because the people who are suffering from negligence of lead, they cannot be here tonight. They don't have the voice, even though they could, but they don't have really the luxury to come tonight to talk about this. And that's why we are here today, to be their voice. And this, I think this is the time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jermaine. Any additional? All right, seeing there's no additional discussion, I hope the city is able to invest and start tracking and really figuring out CRM system and everything else that it can provide to its 21st century technology, because there's a lot of things that need to be tracked. And I hope that this one will be tracked, as is a certificate of lead safe home is quite an important matter in our country. That being said, through the clerk, please take a roll.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Item, Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes, that has been it was continued, so it's up to we should have something from the solicitor's office, so I don't think they are here tonight to talk about it.
To the administration, is there, I don't see any of your city solicitors that are here in terms of any response that might have been requested. Was that requested of you, Councilwoman
Yes,
Jermaine?
yes, it's been there for a
Do
while.
you know if that's in the works, or if that would be provided to Councilwoman Jermaine at some point?
I'll follow up with solicitor's office. I was not aware that a solicitor would not be here tonight.
All right, so we can continue.
All right. Well, to the clerk, we'll continue to the next Ordinance Committee meeting. The next item on the agenda is 8-23-02, Ordinance Amendment of Title 10, Chapter 10.32 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005, entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking on Specific Streets. This is sponsored by Councilman Capopiano. This is continued from the September 14th meeting. you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice President. I've been having continued conversations with traffic safety, so I want to continue this to the next meeting.
Thank you. Not a problem. To the clerk. We can continue this to the next ordinance, the next November's, correct? No. Next month's, okay, great, thank you. The next item we have is 82303, ordinance and amendment of Title 12, Chapter 8, Section 050 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005 entitled Repair of Defective Sidewalks Generally. This is sponsored by Councilwoman Jermaine. This was continued from the September 14th meeting. Councilwoman Jermaine, floor is yours.
I would like, I have some discussion with the administration, and I would like to continue for next month. We need to have some discussion.
Great, thank you to the clerk. If we can continue this to the next ordinance committee meeting in November. Next item is 823-04, ordinance and amendment of Title 10, Chapter 12, Section 250 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005. Box enumerated. This is sponsored by Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes,
Jermaine.
thank you, Madam Chair. This ordinance is a result of many calls, email from residents living in the area of Grace and Pond Street. And there is a really big issue that has been developed in that street where people cut off Grace Street. And at this intersection, really, it's unbearable as people keep, having discussion and wage. A lot of complaints I have received because this area where there is a lot of families and with their children and families with their dog, they like to walk in the area, but the drivers, and from what I've been told, they are like crazy people. And what happened is like they are yelling at the pedestrian in that intersection. And I have emails, like unfortunately, I could not send it to share with you where people are afraid to not, if there's something has not been done, or there's gonna be some fatalities because people getting so enraged at each other when they are, crossing, but there is no crosswalk. There is a stop sign. Drivers do not stop. So at the demand of residents in that area, they asked to have a crosswalk. They think maybe, we know is not always the solution, but if we have a crosswalk enumerated where we have painting, we paint in the street, and that can tell them you have to stop to let them cross. So that's why I proposed this ordinance to make sure that was from the resident, what can be done? So some of them propose to have speed bump, and I know speed bump is not something that will work. And I know that's gonna be a no-no. So I said, okay, let's propose the crosswalk for them.
Thank you, Director Mattis. Would you like to provide an update on this, please, or feedback?
We could talk about it now, or, I would request that we continue this and have a conversation and get a more definitive conversation for next month. I have a couple of questions, concerns with what's proposed. I'll leave it up to you if you want to talk about it today or during the next month.
I can continue as well. We can discuss further.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. To the next.
I do not see any public comment at this time.
Great. Can you hear me now? Can you hear? Oh, all right. That is all for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I have it. Thank you. Motion adjourned.